Our sin curses the space we occupy, and others suffer for it. It's certainly considered axiomatic here in our Western culture that you yourself are responsible for your own actions, no one else's. However, what would you do if I proposed to you a different idea? What if I told you that our ancient fathers had an entirely different opinion on the nature of self-accountability and personal responsibility? So you're all familiar with the story, I think. Ham, this is Noah's son, he observes his father in all of his shame in the tent. He's naked, lying there exposed. Then after Ham witnesses the shame of his father, Ham turns around and he publishes it to the greater assembly. To the rest of the family, he makes the shame known. As a result of that, it isn't Ham that's cursed. It's his son, Canaan. He is cursed for the sake of Ham, for Ham's sin. Another story, Mitzrayim, otherwise known as Egypt, they experience the same phenomenon. Mitzrayim is cursed for the sake of Abram. In this story, it's the house of Pharaoh and the land. This is a national accountability. So the biblical narrative seems to suggest that we are not only responsible for ourselves, we not only bear the guilt of the consequence of our own actions, but those we encounter also carry the consequences of our actions. And that is carried forward to the people they encounter. Our sin curses the space we occupy, and others suffer for it. Even those who have never even heard our name. This is a highly nuanced and sophisticated view of life. How the ancient fathers wanted us to conceptualize our walk in the land that we inhabit. So there is not an easy shelf or a category to put this stuff in. There's no simple black or white clear answer. A person who understands this needs to have wisdom and discernment to understand how their actions affect the greater good and the land that they inhabit. So Abram, he's at this tree called Moreh, which in Hebrew is the word for instruction. And as Abram approaches this tree of instruction, he has a direct encounter with God himself. It's face to face. And God makes a promise to him right then and there. God says to him, I will make your name great. I will make you a great nation, and people will be blessed because of your name, because of your presence. And then he brings him to the land of promise. He stops between two places, Bethel and Ai. Now, Bethel in Hebrew means house of God, and Ai means heap of ruins. So literally in between the house of God and the heap of ruins, Abram stops and he scans the horizon of the promised land. And it just so happens, as his eyes are scanning, they see nothing desirable, nothing worth reaching for, and nothing worth taking. The land appears to him to be wanting, and it lacks anything desirable. This is the inverse to the original Eden patterning that we saw in Genesis, which is the desiring, taking, and consuming sequence of the serpent. His faculties are seeing, and they're seeing nothing worth desiring, and nothing worth taking, and nothing worth consuming. And keep in mind, this happened just after he met with God face to face and was told that this very land, the one he's looking on and looks barren and waste, this is the place of promise where your name shall be great and others will experience blessings and abundance because of your presence. But Abram becomes the arbiter of what is good, noble, and true at this point, deciding for himself with his own wisdom. And his eye at that point has descended from the heights down to the ground, to the common. They've gone from being focused on what is above in the heavens and holy to what is below on the ground and common. And when Abram does that, his eye sees Mitzrayim, Egypt, because Egypt has food and resources. And when he sees that Egypt is desirable and pleasing, he stretches forth his hand to take and consume Egypt. And as a result, he descends. In fact, that is the very word they use, yared, descent. He turns his back on the gift of God and begins to walk off the straight path. His walk becomes crooked, and his vision has lost focus on the divine. And as you know, if ascension is focused towards the divine, then descension is focused on the common. Now, you remember Adam from the garden. A useful thing to know about his name is that its literal meaning is the word for human. Adam is to say human. A person can easily read through these stories in Genesis and seamlessly swap out the English word human and the name Adam, and you will find yourself in alignment with the Hebrew authors. So Adam, the human's commission, whilst in the garden, is to tend, cultivate, and protect the gift that was given to him. And this is not a one-off in the narrative patterning of the Bible. So once you understand this, you can see these echoes emanating throughout the entire canon. So in this particular instance, Sarai is playing the role of the garden tree. She is representative of the forbidden fruit. She is the one that should not be consumed. And just as Adam, the human, should have been there to protect Eve from the serpent, Abram should be the one to protect Sarai. But there's a problem, and the problem is this. Abram, in this narrative, is playing the role of the serpent. So who is to protect Sarai from the serpent? So Abram, what does he do? He uses guile and deception. Lema'an, yitav-li. The Hebrew phrase means so that it will go well with me. Abram uses the guile of the serpent so that things may go well with him. Completely self-referential. He uses this guile and deception to convince the Lord of the land, the Pharaoh, that Sarai is not his wife, that she is indeed his sister. He says, not only will I not be killed, but I'm going to be treated well on your account. Now, soak that idea up. He doesn't just say the Egyptians won't kill me. He says they are going to treat me well. And so the Pharaoh does exactly that. The Pharaoh sees, desires, and takes Abram's wife as his own. And as a consequence of that, the very ground Pharaoh inhabits pays for it. Pharaoh's people pays for it. For Abram's guile and deception, the land is suffering. The house of Pharaoh suffers because of the sins of Abram. And here's the clincher. Abram comes out of this entire event wealthy and rich. You see, the serpent is crafty and wily in the ways of wealth. You've heard it said, the sons of this world are more shrewd in dealing with their own than the sons of light. The Nachash, the serpent, his moves, his tactics, they can indeed put you ahead. They can be financially lucrative. After all, the dragon knows how to generate wealth. It knows how to cut corners, and it knows how to make a dollar. By every material measure, Abram looks successful. You see, the descended eye can only see the common. It can only see that his guile has worked and manifested for him. But material wealth, it is not an indicator of the inner condition of Adam, the man, the human. It is the focus of the eye that is the indicator. So Abram, he comes out rich. And he comes out rich at the cost of his wife's honor. That which she was meant to tend and protect, he sells for a bride price. He makes a buck. This occurs after he descends from the promise of God. And this is no coincidence. He descends down to Mitzrayim, and the ground pays for it. The house of Pharaoh pays for it. People who have never even met Abram are paying for it. All so that it will go well with me. Let me ask you this question. Whose ground right now is cursed so that it will go well with you?